In this video, I will be taking a look at the Acustica Audio Lime, which is a set of plugins based around some modern AMS Neve inspired equalizers and compressors. According to posts on Gearsluts, Lime is unofficially inspired by the Neve VR and 88RS consoles, along with an 8051 compressor/limiter, which is basically a Neve 33609 compressor. There are 11 what Acustica Audio calls preamps in total, which are basically different types of saturation flavors. Lime also includes a two-dimensional skin. Right now I'm showing the 3D skin. In total, with the Lime Crazy 88 package, you have 5 compressors, 2 equalizers, and high and low pass filters. The plugin name comes from the VR console's 1988 release date and the model number 88RS. The compressors in this package include Acustica's new Core 9 Ultra Match technique. In short, it improves the quality of nebula-based compressor sampling and emulation even further than before. Acustica's aim isn't to be 100% faithful to the hardware, but to be a nice hybrid of accuracy and usability. In addition to the preamps, which are basically like the Virtual Console collection or the Waves NLS plugin, this is all about saturation. We also have these compressors, which are another star of this series of plugins. So first up, compressor A is, again, my guess, a Neve VR channel compressor. Compressor B is a Neve 88R or 88RS channel compressor. It features a knee control, which none of the other compressors have. Compressor C is the star of the package. Again, it is a 8051, which is basically the sound of a Neve 33609. Compressor D is the Neve 8051, but using the non-ultra match sampling technique that Acustica used to use. And finally, compressor E is the rack mount version of compressor device A. Alright, let's get to the equalizers, my favorite part of the package. EQ-A has a dark and round sound, again, more than likely a Neve VR channel equalizer setup. And then equalizer B is more modern, it has a cleaner sound, it's more transparent. The 88RS is famous for being a film scoring console. Okay, so let's play some samples through different mixes that I worked on with this thing, so you guys can hear what it can do. First up is a classical music composition, and I will include all the credits for these music clips in the video description. And before, again, very subtle, just a little bit of mud reduction. Nothing too big for that track. And then moving on, I didn't do anything on that. Didn't do anything on that. Again, I'm just using the preamps just like I would use Slate VCC to get a little bit of saturation to make the tracks come alive a little bit more, just so they're not so digital sounding. They gel a little bit better, I guess. But, I just like kind of the idea of pretending like I'm running these tracks through a real console, which is basically what this would be doing. Even if I'm not touching any equalizers, I'm still getting the sound of everything being mixed together in the board. So I just thinned it out. You know, it was sounded a little bit too close to the listener. It was a great recording, but, you know, when you added in with everything else, it was just too up front in the mix, and obviously reverb helps with that, but also thinning out the low mids pushes it more in the background, and it also gets it out of the way of the bass instruments. It's really not that much different from mixing any other music genre. It's all about just slotting the different frequencies, giving it its own space. Here, I'm going to actually bump up the waveform display so I can see these better. Yeah, so that one I wanted to add more upfront sound to it, which I was allowed to do with, as you can see, look, I'm really pushing around a 2.4 kilohertz range. All right, let's see what else we got. This might be it. One more time. And then without the equalizer and preamp. Yeah, so that definitely added some needed brilliance, at least in my opinion, to that portion of the track. All right, I think that's actually the last track that I put these plugins on. Yeah, I didn't actually do anything on this one, it looks like. So up to that point is what I mixed. And let's combine everything up to where the marker is and play it. Oh, by the way, on the master channel, this is what we have. So the mix, and then we have that. And then, of course, I was using ARC while mixing, but just using Ozone to boost the volume. Cool. All right, on to the next mix. This next mix was sent in to me from a Real Home Recording subscriber, and it is a rap song with 4 vocal tracks, an instrumental beat track, and it was pretty easy to mix. It was recorded well, but I did need to do some tweaks on some mud, and actually this is really where I got to try out the channel compressor on vocals, and it did surprisingly well. So vocal channel 1, I decided to go with the cleaner input and equalizer, just like when I was mixing classical music. You know, the way I figure it, your typical rap console is the solid state Logic 9000. So this is the closest to that sound. A much cleaner sound than the Neve VR. But again, the main thing is sending this to the compressors, and I did a serial compression chain ratio at 5:1 on the first one, and then 3:1 on the second one. The first one's just getting a little bit of gain reduction, knocking off the higher peaks, as you'll hear in a second.
Friday, get your ski mask on. Boy, don't try to fuck around and get your hero on. Cold motherfucker Sub-Zero ho. Rhyme with my Nia and my Neos ho.
And then this one's going to be doing most of the compression work.
Get your ski mask on. Boy, don't try to fuck around and get your hero on. Cold motherfucker, Sub-Zero ho. Rhyme with my Nia and my Neos ho.
And then I did have de-essing going on as well. So, let's listen to it up till this track starts playing.
Black Friday, get your ski mask on. Boy, don't try to fuck around and get your hero on. Cold motherfucker, Sub-Zero ho. Rhyme with my Nia and my Neos ho. Thug nigga, fuck.
Alright, now for this track, again, different settings on EQ, and again using the channel compressors. So mainly I got rid of some presence peaking. I still couldn't entirely get rid of it though. And I also got rid of mud. And then we also had, again, the compressors. This one doing a little bit of work, and then that one doing more work. And the main thing for this track was that I used the, what I call expensive vocal trick. And that's using a little bit of delay on the channel because it was a solo vocal, and I didn't think this sounded good enough.
Thug nigga, fuck nigga, what's up nigga, GD shit from Chirac.
And then adding this, just again, a subtle addition.
Thug nigga, fuck nigga, what's up nigga, GD shit from Chirac.
Makes it sound bigger. And let's see. Alright, I'll do it leading up to that point.
Rhyme with my Nia and my Neos ho. Thug nigga, fuck nigga, what's up nigga, GD shit from Chirac. It's a cold winter, wood on the AK, shoot him till it's soul splinter. Boy, I'm with the KK, the K stand for squad killer, King gat, mobbing like a Corleone, bando hopping like I need another phone. West Coast shit, but the 6 beat is on. FBI gangster that'll infiltrate your home. Blackface, that way for the max spray, lay flat, way back.
Alright, and then we have the instrumental, which I did have to do some work to as well. Again, everything going through line B. 3 of these were enabled. The first one, the clap sound was just too bright in the mix. And this is actually why I wish I would have had more tracks to work with, because this is something that I would do with a fader. But unfortunately, because I only have the instrumental track by itself mixed down, I could only adjust it based on the frequency. So it did hurt some of the other tracks, some of the other part of the instrumental track, but it is what it is, as they say. And then we also have some reduction of the low end because the kick drum, although it sounded awesome, was just too intense. So I had to back down on that. And then I also reduced the mud somewhat. So overall, it sounded really good. So I'll do a before and after here so you can hear it. Oh, it also looks like I did a little bit of trimming on the low end too. So, basically any information under like 30 hertz is just a waste. So I upped it on there a little bit. If you watch, I can drag it down a little bit. See? So now I got to undo it. Okay, so here's the instrumental before and after.
Yuma on the beat, what's up? Yuma on the beat, what's up?
Yeah, like I said, it's a real shame I had to reduce the clap noise and get rid of the presence on the rest of the track at the same time, but that clap was just hurting my ears. So ideally I would have the entire instrumental so I can adjust tracks individually, but I wasn't doing the official mix on this, so I'm not complaining about that. But normally if I was mixing rap music, any type of music really, I would want the individual tracks, not the mixed down beat. So let's put it all together again. Starting right around here, I guess. And here's what's on the master channel, by the way. Mix B, stereo, and then some of that. A lot of that, actually. And then span, I use help with mixing here and there.
Way back for your backache, Black Friday, a holiday. I'ma celebrate hitting licks and cutting deals on the back page. Chinese neighborhood, that's where all the money at. Flocking on a Friday, guarantee we selling that. Setting traps for residents, plotting with the Mexicans. Say he got dose, but the Cholos brought another 10. Black Friday, get your ski mask on, but I'm trying to fuck around and get your hero on. Cold motherfucker, Sub-Zero ho. Rhyme with my knee and my Neos ho. Black Friday.
I like the song. I enjoyed mixing it, and with these plugins, I mixed it really in like less than an hour. And we'll go on to our final track, which is a heavy metal System of a Down type of song. That's what it reminded me of most. Alright, now this is the mix that took the longest out of all of them, and I'm still not 100% happy with it, but, you know, whatever. So I'm just going to go down track by track and let you guys know what's going on here. So first of all these tracks were recorded very well. They had a lot of punch to them. The one thing I did not like was that they came to me very loud. So I had to reduce them, again using Hornet VU meter with its automatic reduction. So for the kick drum, lots of cutting. I had to cut the point down. The point of the kick drum had to be reduced. The low end had to be reduced. And that's it for this one. So let's hear the before and after. And then snare drum. Let's see, we had an increase in the snare drum point, and we also had a reduction in the low end, the low mids. I guess it was a little bit too muddy. Before and after. And now we have the overheads, which they actually use the same setting, so I'm just going to enable both of them. And let's see. I had to do a high shelf, which, by the way, a cool feature of Acustica Audio's plugins is you can choose between a high shelf all the way to the right, or you can do an in-between of a normal bell boost. But usually when I want a high shelf, I go all the way. We also have a reduction of the low mids for the overheads. So here's a before. This one's going to be a little bit harder to do since it's 2 tracks. But here we go. Alright, let's add in the tom drums. I also added a drum smash channel along with the drum bus. It was definitely important to have the drum bus channel because after the intro, the drum volume just sunk. So as you can see with volume automation, I took care of that issue. Now, to my favorite, the guitars. First, bass guitar. See what I did on here. Okay, so I actually didn't use the channel compressor. I used one of the plugins I normally use for bass, which is actually technically a limiter, but I like the way it sounds on bass guitar, so I use it. And take note, I used it pre-equalizer. Alright, so the bass guitar got mud reduction, and it got a high pass filter applied as well. Alright, so the intro was actually kind of interesting because it was a stereo track that already had panning built in, and I just needed to get rid of some of the mud. One thing that's interesting about this plugin is it doesn't have numbers on the gain switches, you do have to use your ears, which is a nice thing. At first I didn't like it, but then I'm like, you know what? I don't really need numbers on these knobs. I don't. I just need to, adjust it, listen to it, adjust again, and then stop adjusting once it sounds good. Like you don't. It's nice to have numbers on the frequencies, obviously, but you really don't need it on the gain knobs. All right, so let's listen to the before and after on here as well. Like I said, all these tracks were recorded really well. It's just a matter of getting that mud out when you have a bunch more tracks to worry about. If this was just by itself, it really wouldn't sound that bad, but it's when everything else gets added, the mud needs to go. So let's see. On this track, I boosted the high mids and cut the low mids. Again, it's all about that mud and clarity. And I also used the channel compressor A. Since it's a clean guitar, it's a little bit more dynamic than the distorted guitar section. So let's play it, before and after. Yeah, I'll keep the compressor on. That's not going to be fair if I don't. So yeah, there's definitely, obviously, some panning automation because of the intro. It didn't make any sense to keep this on the left side during the intro. It sounded weird, actually, to do it that way. So I had to do that, and also a volume increase. Once you pan it to the side, it loses volume. So here's the after. Actually, I'll do it before and after again. The channel compressor does an excellent job of compressing, but not sounding overly compressed. Again, I wasn't 100% aware of the Neve channel compressors, but it definitely impressed me. And if I were to buy this plugin, I would certainly use the channel compressors. No doubt about it. Let's add the second guitar, which actually used different EQ settings because it sounded different. So I had to use different EQ settings. Kind of along the same lines, but just as not as extreme as the other one. Or maybe this one was more extreme, I forget. But either way, it also used a channel compressor as well. All right, moving on to distorted guitar, my favorite. Originally recorded on the same track, which it was a little bit of annoying to have to make that cut, but whatever. Just a tip when you're recording guitar, anytime you do tone changes, especially distorted versus clean guitar, record on different tracks so that your mix engineer doesn't have to sort that out, because they're going to have to do different EQ and compressor settings anyway, so you may as well make their job a little bit easier. Let's see, we had some presence boosting. We had some mud cutting. Pretty much the same thing as always, but, you got to do it. You got to do it. Yeah, I just noticed there was no tape plug-in on this track. That was actually an oversight on my part, but whatever. So here we go. I'll do a before and after. I'll actually make this mono so it's a little bit easier to hear it, the before and after. And I'll keep the tape plug. I'll take the tape. No, I'll keep it on. I'll keep the tape plug-in on just to make it fair. Now, one thing that I did do, and I did this while I was about to get sick, So I'm going to actually listen to it for the first time, not being sick. And I want to know, did I use this low pass filter properly? Because it actually is an annoying sounding guitar in the high end, or was that because my ears were starting to get ill? So the answer to the question was, I overdid it, but the low pass filter was necessary, but not at 9 kilohertz, more around 10 or 11. All right, so let me do a before and after with a stereo spread. Yeah, that definitely sounded better. All right, now the last thing I'm going to do is adjust the vocals, or actually play back the vocals. The vocals were actually probably the hardest thing to mix in this song, and that's for a variety of reasons, which, if you're the guy that actually made the song, fast forward through this part, because I'm going to actually, the engineer, whoever engineered this, I'm about to kind of badmouth you. So this track actually has reverb built into it, which I never recommend. If you send me tracks to mix and it already has reverb baked in, as they say, I will ask for the dry vocal. And especially in this case, the reverb was just overpowering, and as much as I cut the mud out, I still couldn't cut as much as I would have liked. And I know for a fact that my reverb plugins probably would have sounded better. This was a plate type of reverb sound, and I know some of these plates can just be super muddy. So anyway, I also had an issue with, this is actually a pet peeve of mine, the more that I do engineering, and that is that these microphones, they have built-in presence peaks, and it just really messes you up when you go to compress your audio. It has this just nasty sound to it that, especially guys like me that have nasally voices, it messes us up. It makes us sound bad. So the more I do vocal recordings, the more I record muddy going in with the mic capsule facing more sideways than right on, and it just sounds better that way. And I don't know if a condenser was used on this one or what, but it just, the tone of the voice, I was not happy with it, and the reverb was not helping things either.
Purge and cleanse,
You hear that little, that like airy type of sound? I couldn't EQ it out.
Purge and cleanse,
That's why I think it was recorded with a condenser microphone, more than likely. It's something that I've heard on a lot of condenser microphones, even the more expensive ones that are like $1,000 or more. They just have this sound with certain people's voices that it just picks up that frequency, and I hate that frequency. Oh, do I hate that frequency. But let's listen to the after and hear how good or bad I got rid of it.
Purge and cleanse, a sore head, cutting out the ladder off the mirror.
Not too bad. I actually could have turned this one off. I didn't even realize that. But so yeah, that's actually why 8K is cut so much, is because of that irritating like air type of sound. But again, this is something that you got to take care of during recording. You really, once it's being mixed, you really can't do much about it. Although I think with my like IIEQ or Pro Q from FabFilter, you can do notch frequency filtering, and I might be able to take care of the issue with that. But yeah, it's just something that irritates me about some microphones, including the one I'm using right now. So I'm just going to add in the rest of the vocals. And actually, I'll just do the whole song. Let's do the whole song, all right? Not the whole song, but all the tracks together. I'll show you the master bus while I'm at it. So we got, this time I actually use mix A. So we're using the Neve VR console input, along with a tape machine, and along with ozone. And yes, ARC was definitely used while mixing this song. So, let's do it. Yeah, so I actually took this song and definitely needed to do mastering on it, but I was pretty happy with the end results with this plugin. This is the first mix I did with Lime, and like I said, I'm going to actually go through and remix this without the low pass filter so intense, because again, I was mixing originally right at the beginning of a cold and my ears were just not having it. So, my thoughts on this plugin are a bit mixed, because I like more of that high fidelity sound that you get from, say, an API equalizer or from an SSL equalizer, that aggressive, glassy, if you really push it type of sound. And the one thing that I kept thinking while listening to this plugin was sand or lime, because you have two workhorse equalizers from Acustica Audio. And the biggest selling point for me are the compressors on this plugin, because pretty much my equalizer needs are met. I'm very happy with what I have, so equalizers I'm covered. But the compressors on this thing, very nice. Surprisingly, the channel compressors to me were my favorite part of this plugin, because they compressed without sucking the life out of the track. They were very easy to use, which I know a lot of you guys, you've used plug-in compressors like I have, and you can't get that much gain reduction going on without the compressors turning to shit. By that I mean it starts sucking the life out of the track. The ones in this plugin sound quite good, and you can compress them pretty hard before they turn to shit. For that reason alone, Lime might be worth it, just for the compressors. And I'm not even talking about the mix bus compressor. That's a whole other thing. Like the Neve 33609 is a classic compressor. It's right up there with the SSL G-bus compressor. Thick is the way I would describe this plugin. Little muddy, yeah, maybe. But it definitely has a different sound than the SSL. Again, that's why I'm torn on whether I would want to get this or sand. I already have SSL equalizers, so I'm leaning a little bit more towards this plugin if I were to buy it. Although I am very satisfied with the pink equalizer. So it's really interesting because it's a lot like hardware, where a lot of your digital equalizers kind of all sound the same, but Acustica stuff has that hardware tone where it's not just frequencies, there's other things going on with the audio. So it's interesting because as much as I did like mixing with this, and again, it's a workhorse equalizer, you can choose different frequencies, you can use different bandwidths. The key for me with sand was your ability to change the bandwidth, the Q factor, as they say, on the control, and you can really do a lot by being able to control how narrow or how wide your different frequency boosts and cuts are. But, if you don't have to choose between the two, obviously get both. But if I had to choose between the two, I think I would go with sand, but I already have SSL, so this is a different flavor for me, and I don't know if I would choose it for the EQs. I think more the compressors really impressed me, the channel A and B especially. So it's a nice EQ package. You also get the preamps, which is nice, but a must buy if you already have a lot of compressors and equalizers, no, but if you're just starting out, then absolutely this package is awesome. I would definitely recommend it to new engineers who are just starting and you're looking to maybe get some paid plugins. Then definitely check this package out. You can demo it yourself for, I believe, 2 weeks, plus I think they actually give you 2 trials. So you can demo this for a full month to see if you like it, and definitely check out those channel compressors. That's the one thing I didn't expect to like with this package, and sure enough, I do. And I'm very much looking forward to the future of Acustica audio plugins, because this Ultra Match technology, or whatever they're calling it, definitely has taken their plugins to the next level. If you've been following the Nebula-based plugins, they haven't always had a great sounding compressor technology to them. And I think finally, somewhere around the time Pink came out, it got a lot better, but now it is even better, which Pink's compressor was very good. But this stuff, again, I can get volume reductions without that nasty squeeze sound, which is pretty awesome. So, again, if you're new to engineering and you are just buying plugins, check it out. If you already have a ton of equalizers and compressors, you probably don't need it. And also check out the 2D skin, which you have to enable through the XML files. So it's a little bit techy, but they give you instructions on how to do that. And I would recommend using the 2D skins over the 3D because they're a little bit easier to look at. But you might like the 3D skins, I don't know. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the review. I do have some more Acustica audio plugin reviews coming out soon in the next week or so, because this is like top tier technology and I don't see anybody else on YouTube really reviewing these plugins. Lime has been out since November of last year and nobody's done a review video on it. I was shocked. So anyway, check out this plugin for yourself. Don't take my word for it. This has been Adam for RealHomeRecording.com.